Hi, this is Dr. Wegman, and I'm going to go through the first day of class, lesson 1 for RED 4001. And as I hope that you've already seen by the syllabus from the website, MyBCF, I hope that you've seen the course requirements and all the things that we need to get done in the class. There's a lot of things to kind of go through, but I thought I'd just kind of give you a brief overview of the assignments and then a way to get think about reading. All right, and so let's start talking about first the actual course. And I'm going through some things here, so pardon my interruption here. All right, so as you look at the course syllabus, I believe it's on the 3rd page. The textbooks, yes, it's 1, 2, 3. The textbooks are listed there. You need, one is by Gail, I think her name is Geip. Another one is Cockrum and Shanker. And please notice the editions. All of the page numbers are related to those particular editions. And then you do need live text, a live text account for this course. Anyone who is not graduating December of 2014 needs live text. And then you're going to need 2 web resources. Again, this is from page 3 on the syllabus. One of them is the Jennings Informal Reading Assessment, and I would recommend printing out 2 copies of this because you're going to write on one and then you'll have another copy for later. And then you're going to need running record directions, and you follow that link in the syllabus. You can get those. And then the basic course, the course requirements, there are 4 things that you need to do to complete this course. 1, you're going to have chapter reading reflections. So each week you're going to choose one of these 4 that you see listed on page 5 as a reflection. And you see the Shaping Up Framework, which is in Appendix E. It's at the very last page, actually. This SQ3R, Survey Question Read, Recite, Review. And this is where you turn all of the subject headings into the readings into questions. You put them on the left-hand column, fold your paper like a hot dog, and then on the right-hand column, you answer those questions in your own words. Then you will have 3 exams. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped down. You could also create a glog at glogster.com, or you could use the Frayer model. It's on page 243. And it has just a specific way to write each vocabulary word. So those are the 4 ways that you could choose to reflect. And each week, you're going to be making sure that you're doing these kind of reflections with one of the chapters. And some of the weeks have 2 or more chapters. So just choose one to do that with. Then you will have 3 exams, and those are going to be all online. And then you'll have participation in attendance, of course. We want you to log in each week and note that that's important. And then also the big thing that's going to be due this week, this class, is a case study. And we call that our live text key assignment. There are basically 6 parts to the case study. So if you turn the page to page 6, I believe, you'll see where it says case study format, provide the following section headings in your case study. The first section is just student information, and you work with pseudonyms and so on. The next section, that is a typo in the syllabus. It needs to be description and copies of at least 10 reading assessments. They're due during lesson 7, but you're going to also copy them into your final case study at the end of the term. So you're going to be looking at 10 reading assessments. We're going to start with that Jennings Informal Reading Inventory that I spoke of before. And there's the web address again in your syllabus. And you're going to start with that, and then you're going to have 9 other assessments that will come from the textbooks. All right, and then the next section are descriptions and copies of at least 5 lesson plans. These are using the BCF format. And the only thing that's slightly different for this reading course is that in the BCF format, you're going to see there's a section that has all kinds of reading skills that are marked on it. Pardon me. And those reading skills, you have to cover all of those skills within those 5 lessons. It's marked reading components. And so by the time you finish that 5th lesson, you should have covered all of those skills like comprehension, oral language development, phonological awareness, and so on. So that's slightly different from the other lesson plans for just the BCF lesson plan format. So during lesson 8, you're going to be turning in 5 lesson plans, yet you don't have to complete them with your student until lesson 12. So you'll be tutoring one student. So those lesson plans are geared toward working with one student. Okay, these are your 15 hours that you need for this class. And it also covers the 3 hours of teaching. These 5 lesson plans you can cover with those 3 hours. Then you're going to talk about descriptions of successes with your student after you've done those lesson plans. Then you'll talk about descriptions of the areas of continued need, where you think that the teacher should go from there. And then finally, you'll reflect, and you're going to follow the 3R pattern. You're going to use about a page for each of these. You'll do one for review, one for relevance, and one for responsibility. And then, as I mentioned before, at the end, you're going to turn these in all compiled together along with your tutoring log. And your tutoring log is in Appendix E in the back of your syllabus as well. So you'll have all of those sections going on and turning those in at the end. And you're going to need to find someone to work with in order to complete this section. It needs to be an elementary age student. I would recommend higher, 2nd grade or higher, maybe 2nd through 5th grade, because you want a student who is already probably already able to read, and you don't want a very low performing student because you're going to need to find some information out through these assessments. So middle performer, say in grades 2, 3, 4, 5, that's going to be your best bet. It can be someone from a local school, it could be someone maybe from your church, but you need to log in about 15 or at least 15 hours with them, and of course complete all of these other activities. Each piece of this lesson plan, the case study, is due in a slightly different time, yet at the very end, as I mentioned, you're going to compile them all together for your case study and for your live text key assignment. One other thing I want to mention about our schedule, beginning in about lesson 3, you're going to be going to the actual schools, and so if you were meeting face-to-face, we wouldn't have the Wednesday meeting or the longer meeting, but we would still have the shorter meeting, which in the fall semester of 2014, that means on the Friday, it'll be 1 hour. And so basically the class session will be that we will talk about the reviews of the chapter reflections, and then we're going to go through a piece of information from each of those chapters that you read about. So that's the basic syllabus in a nutshell. And I'd love for you to read through it and come up with some questions that you might have. Let me know. And otherwise, we're going to talk about, just real briefly, some of the other things and questions to consider. Read through those, but then talking about literacy, and really, what is literacy? Well, it's the state of being able to participate fully in a to and fro interplay between the person and the text. And this participation and this idea comes from Louise Rosenblatt and her transaction theory. She said that we assume a stance on the spectrum between efferent and aesthetic. And efferent is the textbook side when we read for the focus of being later. And the aesthetic is the in-the-moment feel. And this is when we read, the focus is on during the reading event. We assume a stance, and as I mentioned, one end of the stance is efferent, one end is aesthetic. But we want readers to assume stances on both ends, and not maybe in the same lesson, but we want them to experience this great joy in reading, but we also want them to think about reading to learn and learning from their reading. Louise Rosenblatt also said we carry around an LER, which is our accumulation, as the slide says, of all the language and our experiences to date. It's more than just background knowledge. And each reading event is a unique occurrence. This is a sample from Dr. Seuss you may have read as a young child, and as you read it before, you read it in one way. Your evocation was unique. And so as you read it again, now you might understand that Dr. Seuss himself, Theodore Geisel, was quite a liberal social reformist. And the Sam I Am, he's talking about the United States government. And he's talking about the government having intrusion into his life. And so as you read it again, you would read it with a very different perspective. In the 50s, we said that their reading was the author's intention and that there was one meaning from every text. Now, from this point on, I'm talking about reading that man creates, not inspired Word of God. So let's kind of make that distinction there as well. But in the 60s, we slowly began to honor the reader's interpretation until we went all the way on the other side to the whole language movement, which said that the only thing that was important was the reader. Well, Louise Rosenblatt's popularity began in about the 70s, even though she wrote it in the 30s. But 70s and 80s, whole language became really popular in the 90s. We were left now with this balanced view of reading. And this reading balanced view says that the author's meaning is important, but so is the reader, and so is this unique evocation. Now, on this slide, it mentions a close reading, and these slides can be found in your MyBCF section under handouts. And I'd like for you to listen. There's a video here under close reading, and it's one of our experts talking about what it is, because the Common Core State Standards really adopt a close reading or purposeful rereading of the text. All right, so reading occurs, just like art occurs between the person and the text, reading occurs between the person and the text. And it's this interplay that's important. It's the integration of both. All right, so that was really the first class session in a nutshell. I hope that this was helpful, and please send me your questions. Thank you.